everyone, and welcome to PODCAD, the show where we get to talk to some of the world's greatest creatives, artists, and designers. Today, our guest, a contemporary photographer and musician. His work focuses on sexuality, politics, everything in the observable universe and everyone in it. He will be featuring his work in a gallery at the AGO here in Toronto. And I guess we'll talk more about that in the episode. And please welcome Wolfgang Tillmans.
It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How's your day so far? Yeah.
It's been good. I've been editing photographs I took of the installation I made in the museum. Does everybody know what AGO is?
Yes.
Art Gallery of Ontario, right next to the college.
Yeah.
I see.
We'll
Amazing.
definitely be there.
Good to go on a break.
And I spent the last 2 weeks in the galleries, placing all the works myself or with my team, 3 assistants that travel with me, plus a team of around 10 from the AGO. And in this period, I sort of try to give attention to every square meter of wall space.
New space. I visited the rap lecture that you did at the AGO, and what I really appreciated about like sort of the setup was that your work goes through like chronological order. So I figured, we should start sort of at the beginning, and I should ask you, when did you realize that you wanted to become an artist, or sort of, fell in love with art?
By the way, this exhibition and its predecessor in New York at MoMA are kind of exceptions in the way that they follow a certain chronology. Normally, my exhibitions are quite mixed up, and I'm really interested in juxtaposing a picture from 30 years with a picture from 5 years ago, and to continuously assess its relevance, thinking that if I don't care about something I did 15 years ago, then what were my measures then? What were my parameters then? So this sort of constant new, I don't want to apply to me, even though, of course, I want to constantly make new things. And when you sent a selection initially, I felt, no, there's some new works missing. But I like to stay in touch with the old work and mid period and all the work across the years since I've been working. I guess I've been interested in in general in my work, I'm interested in where do things come from? Where do developments start? When there is something I noticed today, then I ask myself, where was that yesterday? Or, if I see it at full effect today, was it half there a year ago? And so I look at it also in my life, like if I develop this strong passion, where did that come from?
Right.
And I trace everything back to astronomy, to somehow having fallen in love with the stars and planets, and in particular.
Do you remember when you got your first telescope?
1978. So when I was 10, it was like a small one, but it was a super intense passion, and it taught me the importance of observation.
And I feel like that is very evident in a lot of your work, is this sort of focus on like observation and seeing sort of the stuff that's not generally seen on like a first take. When you look at something, like the deeper understanding or like message within like a composition when you approach specifically like a lot in your like portraiture and stuff, where it's not just a picture of somebody, but it has like a further like meaning or more like deeper connotation when you actually like observe the piece.
Mm-hmm. And I guess the process of observing has to include the observation of how I observe, because the camera is not just an impartial, neutral thing that's in the room. The moment there is a camera, I mean, like, this is not exactly neutral here. The moment there is a camera in the room, it changes how everybody acts, and how I look at the person, but how the person looks back at me, and that's something that I've been. That's really what the dialogue in my work is. It's a conceptual inquiry into how does image making work over the years, and it constantly changes also. Like 35 years ago, there weren't pictures of people my age that I liked. And so I wanted to create an alternative picture of my contemporaries. And but as you grow older, as these pictures proliferated, perspectives changed. And
I think it was in the 90s, I believe, where the work you're talking about, and people look distorted in their, in their portrayal as being young, and you wanted to show them as professionals almost. In
maybe no, I mean, not professionals. I don't. I always felt that you don't need to be a professional at the age of 22.
Right.
You can give yourself a little time until later.
I should do my We all need it.
But what I meant, like, as a serious person, you know, with who's thinking serious thoughts, and isn't just sort of young and in a passing phase. You know, like radical, revolutionary, new ideas are often attributed by older people to they are just young and not to be taken that seriously. And that was more the feeling that I wanted to convey, that, you know, I am fully aware here in this world, here and now, and so.
When you mentioned your inspiration from astronomy, I was thinking about the way that you are curating the show with like a mix of different eras next to each other. It's almost like the way that we view the stars, in which some are older than others, but when you look at them, they're all on the same plane, right?
Yes. I mean, that's
looking too deep into it.
No, it's too. If I said it, it would be too poetic. So it's nice that you say it like this. And here at AGO, I'm in the galleries on the 5th floor, which are incredibly high, tall walls. Up over 7 meters, and I really enjoyed working here because it is like you're really looking high up, and things come in from afar, and with the different sizes that they are in, there is quite a spatial experience.
I think following up with the sort of like question of how you approach spaces or how you approach setting up your sort of galleries and stuff, I know that this is an exhibition that's obviously originally been installed at the MoMA and is now moved to the AGO and will eventually go to San Francisco. And I guess I sort of like wonder, what is your process of taking an exhibition that's already been on display at the MoMA and then readapting it or fitting it to the AGO, because the space is obviously has differences, or is a little bit, there's obviously different things or ways that it can be displayed. So what is your like way of approaching this, you know, same body of work but a different space?
It's kind of really every time a whole new beginning, even though since since really my first exhibitions, I've been measuring every installation meticulously, and initially drew them on graph paper. And then, of course, it's been digitally recorded. But so the position of each print on a wall is locked and recorded to the millimeter. And then there are sections that I feel were successful and could be moved, are suitable to moving. So they are then often being, so there are elements that are reinstalled from MoMA, but it is, there's one section of the 3 pictures of the sun with the planet Venus in front of it and a night sky from Papua New Guinea that has been configured like this since my exhibition at the Moderna Museet in Stockholm in 2012. Somehow they always travel like this.
Together as like a set almost, and it's like a translatable for each one at this point.
Yes, but the majority of what you see has been fitted into what this very unique body and interior is here in Toronto. And I guess I prepare as much as I can, and then I respond to how it feels on site.
Because I guess you don't really know until you're like physically in the space, and like you can plan it all and like, you know, make like a small like marquee of like what it should be, but until you're actually like in the physical space, you don't have that freedom to be fully inspired or informed by like what the space has to offer.
I mean, it's a one can widen that observation to the general creative process. Is that that I like to be prepared. You know, I like to plan, but I don't want to follow a plan when I'm then actually making the work, because if you only, if you have a plan, for example, when I take a portrait of somebody and I formulated everything in words, then I will only follow words, and I follow a translation that's gone from something imagined and or non-existent into words which are much more specific, and I would then actually only follow them. Whereas if I am simply prepared but open to whatever might happen as well, I can sort of benefit from both, from my knowledge from the past and from an openness to chance that plays, that can play surprising things into your life that you can like grasp and use in the moment, but it needs you to be open to recognize them. Chance is a huge opportunity, and people are sometimes afraid of it, and almost want to cancel it out and plan everything out. And
that's what I tell my professors. I don't have an artist statement or anything prepared for this presentation, but I do agree with you. And magic moments can happen, and that's amazing to have. I had seen a sort of video that you built a scale model of your gallery in the MoMA. Was that a sort of something you used here or for the AGO?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, there's also a 1 to 10 scale model of AGO in Berlin right now.
Wow, that's so cool.
So do you step into it and like feel like a giant, just like crushing the work?
Yeah, 1 to 10 is really quite big. So I can, like at AGO, the walls are then 70 centimeters tall. So it's quite good for my training to lift the legs high up to go from room to room.
It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I feel like Godzilla.
A little.
Yeah, you could have like an exhibition of the models.
Yeah, in the summer last year, I did actually a portfolio in this architectural magazine, Pin Up from New York, where I showed my models. which was cool because I compared pictures that I took with a camera inside with pictures I took in the actual museums, and sometimes it's surprisingly similar, and sometimes it's completely different.
Yeah. It's a really, really fascinating way of approaching it, at making it like down to scale and then having to translate that up to like actual scale in the physical space. And I think it is fascinating to like have that comparison of, you know, like expectation versus reality at the end when it's finally up. Do you ever like find yourself going back to your sort of like built things and going like, this is maybe what I should have done instead after it's like done? Or do you just kind of move on from?
I mean, I don't know if it's wishful thinking or just, but I tend to not want to change anything once I'm done. And when I come back to an exhibition, I feel like that's what it is. Or even with photographs also. When I've photographed, for example, the still lifes that I do, they often accumulate over a period of weeks or sometimes months, and then it's at some moment they call to be photographed, or I recognize them. You know, sometimes it's a calling, sometimes it's recognizing, and suddenly a picture becomes possible, and then 2 weeks later, I don't think, I wish I could do that again, or I want to do it again. It's sort of an intersection where various different things come together, and then they crystallize into something. And then, of course, also it's time to move on, because if you festered on everything all the time that we did all times,
you'd be full of yourself.
it would be like total blockage.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I had a professor. I was talking to him about illustration and painting, and he said that a painting doesn't always have to be finished. You know, sometimes you can. Personally, I like to go back to paintings I've done years ago and adjust them. I'm just like, that's insane. Like, I'd never put down a canvas if that was the case. Like, I'm also in the same boat. It's just like, once it's done, like, that's it, moment in time, right? As opposed
But
to...
of course, we're not setting up rules here.
Of course, yeah.
For other people, it might
For
work.
other people, it's different, yeah. That's the beauty of it. But, like, taking it back from, like mentioning school and professors, what was something like in school that you did to further your photography?
I guess not even just photography, but like your artistic practice in general. Like, what was there anything in your studies that like sort of either informed you or like helped you discover like, yes, this is a path that I do want to like pursue and be persistent in?
I mean, in teaching, there was my tutor Tony Maestri at Bournemouth, then College of Art and Design, who didn't really want to even look or comment much on the pictures, but he was more interested in a psychoanalytical approach, almost like that encourage us to understand what moves us to contribute to this ever-growing mass of photographs. And, that was 30 years ago. He said, there are already enough pictures in the world. Right. Why do you think you want to contribute to this? I mean, quite a lot.
One hell of a question. Yeah. It's like, I maybe I should go to law school.
To somehow get in touch with, in a way, what you first asked me, like what was the first moment that moved you, to understand, like original motivation, which is hard to sometimes put your finger on.
Right.
And it's one shouldn't maybe even look for that decisive answer, because ultimately it's also a mystery. You know, like I don't really know what makes me tick. You know, and in arts education, one is often too much pushed to explain everything. So when you ask what were formative experiences, it's I guess what I found again and again to be true is that good ideas that resulted in good work don't come with an arrow attached important idea.
Yes, for sure. It's kind of like more so just filtering through all of the ideas and like inspiration and finding that one that like to you stands out and is like, yes, this is the one to go with, but it's not always clear.
Exactly. And to even sort of actively with pressure search for that one is sometimes too forceful.
For sure.
It might scare it away. You know, so like in the exhibition, there's a work of a grid of 56 photographs of Concorde, the supersonic airplane that first flew in 1969 until it was taken out of commission in 2002. And that to photograph that, to make that a subject of a weeks-long sort of meditation on it, of looking into the sky, was, again, nothing that you read in a book about, no, you shouldn't do this. No, there was no one telling me that. But over the course of the 3 years prior, I had like maybe once or twice a year an inkling of a thought like came into my head. You know, this is actually significant. Like every time I see Concorde above London in the sky, it feels special. There's something that connects me to a space age, to design, to the hope to live a better life through technology and science. Something that by the time that I had these thoughts in the mid-1990s, the promises of the space age felt pretty much not fulfilled.
Right.
And so there were these sort of ideas and thoughts that were coupled to a simple visual observation. And it's easy to just, think the next thought, about I have to get off the underground now, or I have to, and you don't always immediately recognize it. Okay, this is the important thought, but I've made a rule. If something knocks on my subconscious 3 times, I have to take it seriously.
Because it must be something important if it keeps coming back. Like that reoccurring inspiration or thought can be, I feel like, I guess it's like sometimes it can be very, very intrusive. Like it's just always there and you're not recognizing it until you finally say like, yes, this is the idea, and just have to approach it, I guess, instead of shunning it away and hiding it because you think that it's not a good idea or something. And I guess that is like, as an artist or creative, the risk of like, you know, taking something that you think is a great idea and then making it so that it is accessible outside of just your conscious. So it's in a medium that is digestible to others, I suppose.
Do you feel like an immediacy to get the idea done? Because personally, I feel like if I wait too long on an idea and the idea passes, it'll never get done. And I feel like there's a perfect time to execute like an illustration in my practice. And if I let it pass, or I wait too long to do it, I'll just start thinking like, maybe it's not a good idea, it kind of sucks. But if I did it in the moment, I'd have a new piece of art. So do you feel like there should be like an immediacy to executing an idea?
Yes, and I again have to say, but
Yes, of course.
Because
there's no rules.
The thing exactly, the moment that you feel you catch that mystery, it's no longer a mystery. The moment you control and provoke chance to happen, it's no longer a free moment of chance, and that is the catch with the process I found. No? Is that of course there is an incredible freshness in your early 20s when things just happen to you, and then you recognize, oh, that was a good idea, and then you want to do it again, but then of course the wanting is part of the mix, and that to somehow control the effect of the wanting to do it again or wanting more is almost what all the work is about. Is how do you become ever more knowledgeable and experienced without being stifled by it, and you can't preserve innocence. It's just not possible. Yes. Like I can't undo the knowledge that I gathered. So it's really about learning how to stay cool with it.
Yeah, for sure. But I guess that's also like a process that doesn't ever end, even when you're outside of school and stuff. As you live and obviously create and stuff, you continue to learn, not only about yourself, but about everything in the world. And I guess that continues to inform the way you think and create, because it's all about the exterior factors that contribute to the interior narrative that produces the ideas for great work, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what being an artist is, right? Just trying to make sense of the absurdity of the world, Just kind of like taking in and just being the medium for which your work is made, It's like tapping into something bigger, in a way. I've always heard this... I recently heard, this representation of like what it's like to get inspiration. It's like, at a carnival, you're in this booth and there's like you have 1 minute and there's like or 30 seconds, there's like money flying around and you have to like grab all the money. That's like what getting ideas are. Like when you have an inspiration in the moment, it's like, oh, gotta grab as much before it goes away.
Maybe we're actually a little bit too much edging towards this chance and inspiration. I think it's to counter this, I would say, no, it's not all just inspiration. It's actually coming from, like a lot of what I did was coming from and is still coming from the asking myself the question, what is missing? There is all sorts around, but so, like, again, there's the question, why do more? Why do more of what's there already? So, but maybe there's something that's missing.
It's not there, yeah.
And when when I tell that to younger people, then they say, yeah, but, it's easy for you to say that because back then there was was no techno, there was no house music, there was, that all was new. But of course, for my generation, in the 90s or in the late 80s, early 90s, initially it felt like, well, after punk and neo-romantic and postmodernism and the entire 80s and 70s, what can there be new?
It's a continuing cycle. Like someone in the 1800s was like, oh, really? You're never going to come up with something good. It's like, it's already all been done.
Yeah.
And you mentioned punk music and sort of, or should I say electronic music. In your talk, you'd mentioned styles of work like acid house and electronic music of the 80s. And what I wanted to ask, like, what got you into that sort of music when you were young?
Repetitive beats. I guess...
they can't get old.
I guess there was a thrill about music and sounds that expressed a feeling of being alive in the here and now, that we understood, but that our parents didn't understand. And that, I guess, is something that is was there for I don't know how many decades, and it's kind of ended with the time that, you know, like even like I noticed that, oh my God, the American president played rock saxophone. You know, like parents should be into classical music and young people should be into rock and roll, or into you know that gap, and that has completely disappeared. And that's also probably a cool thing, but it's also, you know, that
I always I always dreaded that I might like get older one day and then like my kids will be listening to music and I just can't like connect with them but you know what you were saying. Hopefully that doesn't happen.
And I mean, for me, it feels strange sometimes when parents and kids are listening, are liking and feeling the same things, but from music. But it's kind of almost like the success of opening up perspectives in the last 50 years. You know, that people don't look at oh, that's bad, and you know, like society has evolved, and again, the values of one expression, style of expression, if that was not valid 30 years later. No, I mean, maybe I'm getting down a wrong path here, because of course there are expressions that are very specific to a moment or to a time or to a demographic, but yeah.
I feel like, I guess it's also like partially now in today's day and age would be like access to this sort of media and stuff, right? Where like there's like a collective conscious of music where like you can go on any streaming platform now and you can start listening to something and say like, oh, I don't like it or I like it.
You can explore more these days. Like nowadays, there's a lot of kids buying vinyl and, you know, discovering bands or like my father turned me on music like very early. Like I remember I was like a toddler. One of the first musicians he turned me on was Kraftwerk. You know, it's very easy to learn language that way. I am the operator of my pocket calculator.
I listened to Neon Lights at the AGO actually last week.
That's really cool.
It's such a beautiful song. And one of my assistants put on a Kraftwerk interpreted by a band of musicians playing it on marimba, so on completely different instruments. And then there's the Balonescu quartet who play Kraftwerk on strings. It's incredible to see it, exactly the same notes played in different instruments, and it suddenly sounds like beautiful classic composition.
Yeah, that's cool. But it still holds the same song. It's just
still got the same funk.
It's been like translated to another almost like medium, but it's the same. It's just different instruments, and I guess it produces that different style. I guess like that's a great way to segue into like, I know that you also create music and produce your own music and stuff. And I guess what would be some like inspiration for when you're creating music or adding to the conversation of like audio and like auditory expression?
It sort of comes from almost two opposite ends. On the one hand, it's language, as in words that pop into my mind, and I like to play with words, or a line comes into my mind and I say it, and it sometimes comes with a melody attached, which is quite remarkable that the mind, the human mind does that. No, that if you that we sing in the shower and something pops into our head. Again, so here the question is, do you pick and hold on to every one of them, or only which ones are good? And on the other hand, so from like the words, and the other side is that I have a deep interest in sound, and I have recorded sounds with a microphone over the years and treat it or consider it almost like a sound photography, because it's like it's capturing it and translating it, or first of all capturing it and trying to record it naturalistically, and so in this first full-length album that I put out a year and a half ago called Moon and Earthlight, there's, for example, a drip of a rain pipe that becomes percussion, and sort of observing the beauty in it, observing the rhythm in it, but then mixing it with parts of sound that I manipulated, and then sound music that happened in a jam session, mixing it with a song that was fully produced in the studio. And then these are woven together into a 54-minute uninterrupted track of 18 different pieces. And this is actually playing as a music film at AGO in the cinema in the basement for about 10 hours each week. They have different times when it's on. But you can also listen to it on streaming.
On streaming?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of ambient noises here in Toronto, as you can tell. Could make
building all the time.
It could make for some good exploration. Yeah.
Right.
Shall we look at some work?
Yeah. So we actually have some of your pieces here from the show that we wanted to sort of get your anecdotes on.
That's a nice and light-hearted approach on a morning.
Yeah. Right. Well, since we can't be with you there at the gallery, maybe we thought we'd bring it to you. What could you tell us about this piece? I think it was 1987 when. Yeah,
Edinburgh Builders. And this is one of the earliest works in the exhibition, and describe the moment when I discovered, I guess, mechanical reproduction as my preferred means of expression after, drawing and painting and making things with my hands. I had discovered this scanner photocopier that at the time had a lot of noise in I guess which one would cause noise.
Yeah. Is it a really big machine?
I mean, it's like a big photocopier, and it was able to translate photographs into grayscale pictures that almost felt like a little bit like drawings.
Yeah.
And at that time I didn't consider myself a photographer, even though I was touched and moved by a lot of art that used photography, like Andy Warhol. We refer to them as paintings, but of course they are photographs printed onto canvas. Or Gerhard Richter, Sigmar Polke, they use photographs that are transferred some way or another to canvas. And I felt also that I didn't fascinated by images that lenses created, but I didn't feel the need to transfer this lens-made picture onto canvas. I felt it is already on paper, and that is beautiful.
For sure. I guess going from your sort of comment there on these artists that we call like a painter or we call like a screen printer or whatever. Like with your work and stuff, you obviously do a lot that uses the camera and involves the photography and stuff. But like as a title, what do you prefer to be called? Like an artist or a creative, or like what is like the title that you're happy with being, like labeled as?
I know it's kind of two capsules, like the larger term is artist, a more specific one is visual artist, but then of course there are sounds in the practice.
Yeah, right.
So there's a contemporary artist, but outside of the contemporary art world, most people don't know what the term contemporary really means.
Yeah.
Right? It just means really working here and now.
Yeah.
And I am wholeheartedly a photographer. I love the medium. I think it's an incredible invention and gift, that came into the world and into my life, that remains miraculous to me in some extent, that I never feel I fully control, and it's still evolving and developing, but of course, when a photographer is everything, no? From wedding photographer to forensic photographer to and so the specifics, like when I get into a taxi and get into a conversation with the driver, photographer, of course, elicits the reactions. Oh, do you photograph nice girls? And or what? And or some sport.
If we weren't prepared, we would have started with that.
Contemporary photographer.
Yes.
Photographer.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I guess, how do you exactly communicate what that activity is that has the overall umbrella art, but it's because there's also a journalistic side in me. I like to use my medium and my language to report on things, to amplify things, or to lend my voice to support causes I like. Anyway, this is a long answer to
Right.
But there's a long list of labels, right?
True.
It's best probably not to worry too much about what you're labeled as and just keep making the work that you make.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, there's I guess also between the applied and the non-applied arts. There is often a passion across the aisle that sort of fine artists feel attracted to design, and feel as if there is a side in them that is answered by the what design can achieve, and the other way around. Designers are often or sometimes feeling that they ought to be also fine artists, and this creates sometimes a friction within people that is, I often find, unnecessary, because what if you master a field, if you master what you do, that is very impressive no matter what. No, it should be very satisfying, and you shouldn't always be looking at what is lacking, is what you're not.
For sure.
Oh. Right. Alex and Looks, I believe, was
Yes.
the title of your piece here. Again, God damn it.
It's very precarious.
It has a mind of its own.
Okay. When did you meet these individuals?
When I was, I guess, 13, in school, high school, in a city called Remscheid in West Germany. And it's been real luck, to meet like-minded souls at that age, and we somehow felt immediately, or not. I mean, I guess. Well, we felt connected, or we shared similar passions, and then went on also trips together, and on language trips to England, or interrail trips to France and other parts, but going to school together, we developed a strong sense of observing the city, the town, the people around us, and developing, I guess, and encouraging each other in our individuality, and accepting who we were. At the time in the 1980s, being gay wasn't exactly sort of every day, and wasn't really spoken about. There was still, like
it was like taboo. It was like a little bit of a,
like exactly. It wasn't. I mean, there was right at that time there was a general in the German army who was rumored to be gay, who was literally like edged out and thrown out publicly, and it was something that felt stigmatized, and so with having Lutz as somebody going through the same experience, being able to talk about was extremely wonderful. At a time when also there was pop music that played with sexual ambiguity, the new romantic, new wave pop stars, many of whom later came out gay, but none of them dared to be gay at the time.
Right.
Like George Michael, Boy George, Culture Club, and so it was I don't know. We always had a bit of our own perspective on things, and had a great sense of humor, dissecting everything where people took themselves too seriously.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I could see how maybe the events leading up, where you're just having fun and wanted to take maybe perhaps like just a funny photo, or
yeah, I mean, we always had this sense of that if people were less afraid of their bodies and more accepting of even the absurdity of their body, the pleasure of their body and their sexuality, there would be much less pain in the world, and much less conflict.
You're not alone.
Anger.
In a sense. As in, like, you're not alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what unites us as human beings, right? Is that we all experience the same things through our bodies, right?
Yes.
It grounds us to the universe.
But but society makes strong guides to not make us speak about our body, and not make us speak about our feelings, or and makes bodily functions taboo, or this or that, and so this set of pictures was, I guess we wanted to have a playful approach to being in nature, for an equality between man and woman, and well, actually, like you said, also have just some fun, which is quite serious. Like play is the root of very good and strong and powerful observations and feelings. I think play is super important, and adults should play more. Not like people think that when you come to a certain age, one shouldn't.
I still have all my Legos.
Oh yeah, really?
Well, they're all upstairs, but still got them.
What else do you have in stock?
I keep a lot of video games.
Oh no, I meant on the pictures.
Or I don't know if you wanted to go play, but right. We can go through maybe one more.
Time for one more,
Yeah. I guess we'll stop here.
Freischwimmer.
It's just going.
Yeah.
This type of picture I started making in the late 90s, really from it was leading up, but then from 2000 I specifically found this technique of drawing with light on to photographic paper in the darkroom. Mm-hmm. And exploring what happens when connecting this quite painterly process to a medium that the eye of the viewer recognizes as fully photographic. Mm-hmm. And what we recognize as photographic, the brain connects to reality, of course. Mm-hmm. And whereas if we recognize something as canvas, paint on canvas, for example, we obviously don't see first and foremost reality in it, but we see a person put this color there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. And that intentionality of a painted canvas also, of course, locks the process in that loop. Not like the painter put this there. Yeah. Whereas if I observed that there's sort of great power coming from having painterly gestures and forms taking place, with them pointing more at being evidence. That is something that was recorded rather than put there. Mm-hmm. And so they evoke in the viewer's mind sometimes underwater phenomena or skin, or one of the earliest works also on display at AGO of that type is called Blushes, because it somehow alludes to a reddening
blush. Yeah. I feel like that's like your comment on like the painter leaving a mark and stuff. It is like a way for like you as the artist to leave your mark within versus just letting the camera capture what you're capturing, right? Like it's almost like it's an additive process versus just capturing what is there in the moment. If that makes sense. Yeah.
Yes, and that sometimes we like to be. Sometimes we like to see that this was put there, mm-hmm. but sometimes we also like to believe that it just happened like this. Mm-hmm. And in my practice, maybe the most single, I guess, stand out quality in my work is that the finding and the staging, the meticulously making and the capturing in the moment happens side by side and in mixed and unequal and sometimes even measures. Mm-hmm. So there are, the photograph that flashed up earlier of the young man and the deer.
Yeah.
And that happened entirely in a moment and wasn't a big production bringing a deer to a beach. And then other pictures that look very passing by, they have been maybe accumulated over a longer period of time and meticulously staged. And I observe that is almost the biggest challenge for viewers to to really let in, that no, there's not one way of working. I don't just capture. I as much place things, but then again, placing things doesn't make them more important than the moment. Like language attributes usually more value to what is planned rather than to what has been found.
I think that circles our sort of conversation that we had at the start. And I mean, it's very valuable to sort of just put it down here. And you're very well spoken. And I wanted to say again that your show at the AGO will be here for a limited time, of course. And we'll be opening on April 12th. And it'll be a dance party. I know that. So I invite everyone who's listening to come see it. We'd like to close off our show with giving our guest a gift. So we have something here for you.
Oh,
yeah. That, you have an interest with the universe and the cosmos. So in fact, we decided to bring part of the cosmos to you.
Oh.
Yes.
You can give it open.
I mean, when you said part of cosmos and the weight and the size,
a bit of an index.
It could be. Is it a meteorite?
Oh, we'll see.
I guess we'll see. It's actually an infinity
Oh my God!
stone.
Really?
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
But it's a metal meteorite.
right. What they told me landed 5,000 years ago in Argentina.
Really?
Right. I have a certificate I can give you.
Wow. This is big and beautiful. Thank you so much.
Glad
Very
you-
welcome.
Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and coming on.
Yes.
Cool. How cool is that? Thank you.
Well, thank you all for listening. It's been a wonderful episode,
And the show is on until the 1st of October. Don't leave it until then.
Right.
But if people plan a trip or friends, it really is for over 4 months, which is great. So
yes.
And this is a great opportunity to see some of the work and much more work that has spanned Wolfgang's entire career. So we encourage you to definitely go to the AGO and check it out.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much. That
Thank
was
you.
awesome.
That was super good. Thank you so much.
Oh,
You got good X-ray vision.
Yeah.